Quantum energy squares. Do they live up to their rather ambitious name? Let's find out that and a whole lot more coming up in 2 seconds. Welcome, I'm John of John Health and Fitness. Today we're covering quantum coffee-infused energy squares. A couple administrative notes before we get started. Number one, these of course are just my opinions. I do encourage you to form your own, and hopefully I can find some useful information for you. Do check the most recent packaging though. Formulations do change. Second, I'll timestamp the various sections down below. We have a lot to go over. I'm going to start with highlights. Number one highlight, these are pretty nutrient dense at 200 calories and a broad spectrum of macronutrients. These pack a little bit of a caloric punch to them. Likewise, number two, decent caffeine punch too, 100 milligrams. I'll have more to say about that in a moment. Three, all plant-based and non-soy as well. In fact, it's soy-free, gluten-free, and in fact, it's vegan. Overall, pretty well-rounded energy bar, as I consider true energy to be nutrients, caffeine to be a stimulant. Together, they're quite a combo. Let's get to the macronutrients. I find this to be a balanced macronutrient profile. In fact, it pretty much squares with what I try to do in any given day or week. Run about 20% protein, and I try to balance carbs and fats between the two. This one hits that mark. Now, every single thing you eat is not going to be perfectly balanced like that. But I think it's interesting that this one I can eat, it's not going to affect my balance at all. It's right square in the middle. But the thing to note for anyone is that balance. Roughly 40 fat, 40 carbs, and 20 protein or so. There are some variations among the flavors, but that's the basic profile. As for the carb breakdown, it's over 50% sugar. That should not surprise you. This is an energy bar. They tend to be packed with a fair amount of sugar. What's interesting is they do advertise themselves as being low carbohydrates. At around 21 grams, I consider that pretty mainstream for a bar like this. But again, it's an energy bar. It's going to have carbohydrates unless it's keto. This is definitely not keto. It's also got a little shot of fiber in there, which I appreciate. It's not too much, about 4 grams. Really kind of rounding out its generally balanced nutrient profile. Let's talk about the caffeine for a moment. At 100 milligrams, that's pretty mainstream for an energy bar like this. A pretty decent shot of caffeine. They explain it as equaling 1 shot of espresso. I actually had to contact the company to find out exactly how much caffeine is in there. To their credit, they got back to me right away. Some companies will claim it's a proprietary information, which really drives me nuts. But yeah, a shot of espresso, a cup of coffee, you see that a lot. That can vary quite a bit. So just be very wary of those kinds of explanations. Try to get the exact amount. Quantum energy squares, it's 100 milligrams of caffeine. It's also natural caffeine, as they explain. That actually is helpful. It kind of eliminates that huge spike and crash you get in synthetic caffeines. Let's talk about the protein for a moment. It is plant-based but non-soy, so all pretty high-quality proteins. Quite a bit of it sourced from nuts and seeds. And at 10 grams of protein, that's a pretty good punch for an energy bar. Again, it's that balance of macronutrients that I really like about this bar. It's not that you always want that balance. Sometimes you just need a shot of caffeine, for instance, or maybe a shot of sugar or carbs. But if you want that full, balanced nutrient profile, this is a good bar for that. Regarding allergens, it is soy-free, gluten-free, but it does have nuts in it. And again, if you buy these, check the packaging for the latest information on that. Let's take a look at these ingredients. This one's actually pretty simple. A lot of times I like pulling out all the stuff that sounds like chemicals or things I'm not exactly sure what they are and look them up. This is pretty clean. So not a whole lot to talk about here. I'm often looking for things like palm kernel oil even, because I know some people have a problem with that, depending on how it's sourced. It doesn't even have that. So these are pretty straightforward, pronounceable things that most people can understand. In terms of features that have absolutely nothing to do with nutrition, these are the official Ironman energy bar, if that's the kind of thing that's important to you. Let's take a look at value. Regarding cost and value, compared to some of their peers I chose, they're all pretty close. It's a fairly tight range. But I don't just like looking at per bar, but rather per 100 calories, because the bar sizes do vary. Look at it that way, you notice the quantum energy squares are actually a little more expensive than some of the other ones, but still again, in a very tight range. Likewise, per 10 milligrams of caffeine, which is another way of looking at it, to see what you're paying for, a very tight range with some of its peers. Please keep in mind, these are prices as of the making of this video. Those can change, of course. So what would these be good for? Actually a pretty decent pre-workout energy bar. I wouldn't eat these too close to a workout because there's a fair amount of calories, but I've eaten them within a half hour or so, depending on what you're doing, and they seem to settle in the stomach rather well. A decent snack or afternoon pick-me-up also, something to get you through a long meeting even. It's basically a combination of snack and a cup of coffee, essentially, or a cup of espresso, as they say. But yeah, 100 milligrams of caffeine. Let's move on to some of the more subjective measures. Appearance, aroma, texture, and taste. All right, appearance first. This is what the box looks like when I bought it last, which really was just a month or two ago. You know, it's silver, pretty cool looking, that's fine. Let's open her up. The bars themselves are colorfully packaged. I did get a variety pack. I like doing that when it's available and it's not too much extra money. Actually, it cost me no extra money to get the variety pack versus the single flavor ones. You notice the packaging is going to be a little different. I noticed just recently they got that official Iron Man thing marked 2020. So the newer ones are going to have a slightly different look to them, the bags. We're going to have the little Iron Man logo up here. But same basic idea. Let's open this sucker up. All right, packaging is reasonable. You know, they're fairly well protected in there, obviously. I'm doing a peanut butter dark chocolate. The appearance of these things is pretty much you'd expect. Most protein bars, athletic bars, fitness bars, energy bars, they tend to have a beige to brown color. This is more towards the brown, as you can see. Aroma? Let me just double check. Perfectly fine. It's what you'd expect. This is peanut butter dark chocolate, and it smells a lot like peanut butter. Tiny hint of chocolate, but not overwhelming, nothing off-putting, nothing weird smelling. Pretty much what you'd expect for this particular flavor. Texture? Again, really mainstream. That slightly chewy texture to it. Not too chewy. There's certain bars I really don't like. RX bars, they stick to your teeth too much. This is chewy but soft enough it's not overly irritating to eat. But yeah, this one I like. You see it's got a bunch of peanuts in there. And just so you know, they're pretty much all like this. There's, in this variety pack, coconut almond chip. Same look, same basic texture. I've had them all. Cafe mocha almond chip. And finally, what about taste? I prefer not to eat and chew on camera. I find that can be kind of disgusting and off-putting to people. But I tell you, I've had one of these just yesterday, so I'm not going to eat it right now. Real good mainstream flavor. I mean, they're very good. I typically think poor, average, good, very good, excellent. These are very good. I put them up there as dark chocolate peanut butter, or peanut butter dark chocolate. It's excellent, no off-putting flavors. You can always tell when you're eating a clean energy bar without a lot of chemicals in it. It just tastes good, it feels good, and it feels good even after you eat it. Maybe I'll take a bite because I still have to finish this video. I'm feeling tired. So overall I like these. These are a regular of mine. You know, I really tend to allow the circumstances to dictate what I'm eating. I don't stick with one thing. If this is a good energy bar for a well-rounded nutrient punch with a decent punch of caffeine. I don't always want that. I don't always want 200 calories. I don't always want 100 milligrams of caffeine either. But if you want a nice, well-rounded energy bar that's got just about everything, this is certainly worthy of consideration. If you're interested in quantum energy squares, you can find them in a link below. These are affiliate links. I tell you what those are down there. And it does help support the channel at no cost to you. It also keeps you out of the stores, which at the making of this video is during the coronavirus pandemic, so hey, not a bad idea maybe. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this, we do a lot of these kinds of things. Reviews, general nutrition information, we do exercise videos, and some motivation. Hit the subscribe button and the alert bell so you get those notifications. Thanks again, catch you next time.